If you are by a coastline anywhere in the world, you're going to see boats, pleasure craft, fishing boats, ferries, and more. And here in southwestern Nova Scotia, AF Theriault and Son have been building boats for almost 85 years. They started in wood, they've moved to composites and metal.
This is the future Theriault Island ferry. It's an 18-car passenger ferry. It'll be running from the new terminal Blandford, go to two Theriault Island ferries. It's all steel construction with an aluminum wheelhouse. It's not there yet. It's about 250 tons of steel you're looking at.
250 tons of steel.
Thousands of pieces, all computer cut from our 3D model. And my construction foreman and his team literally build it piece by piece.
Back in 1938, my grandfather started building wooden boats, and then the company grew with time to start building steel boats in approximately 1988. If the company was to survive and thrive and move forward, we needed to move our technology from wooden boat to steel and fiberglass boat. And also, over the course of time, approximately those time and era, we started fixing boats. So we knew we were building them, so we needed to fix them. So we have a ship repair facility, also part of our company.
In the run of the business here, how many boats have you guys built?
We built new construction over 1,000 boats. I think we're up around almost 1,090. I think the last hull, maybe 86 perhaps. And I assume that the hull number started with the very first wooden boat that we built that Jill had mentioned about. So we're well over 1,000 vessels.
So we got two boats on here right now. The front one's been here longer. We broke the slip in two. We put this back one on after. So based on the season and the urgency of the work, he'll go first anyway. Both here, you see the two sets of numbers. That's to tell us how deep we are in the water. This is when we go get a boat.
Yeah.
And this is where the slip doesn't break in two, but we can separate it into two parts and just launch the back half if we want.
I'm guessing what holds this together has got to be big, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of bolts. You can see them right here.
Okay.
We just take the nuts off. The bolts are permanently welded there. But basically, the nut's not on there right now, but we put a nut there, and on the other side there's a similar one.
So there's two bolts that hold it together.
Yeah, so the pulling down and the pulling back up all occurs from the back half.
From the back half.
So that if we want to launch only the back half, we can.
And this just stays here.
If we want to launch the whole thing, we put the nuts in, and they all go together.
And it just pulls it down. And this boat is getting its winter maintenance.
Yeah.
And this other boat is going back out to sea?
It's just getting a repair. We had to get a repair done, so it came in. It's in a bit more of a rush because it can fish right now. This one is a herring boat. It can only fish in summertime, so we have a bit more time. So we put him on the front because we can't launch him and not launch him. So they both, when this one goes, everything has to go. Right? So, but this one's on the front by design so that this one can come and go. And if he's launched and he's still here, we're going to put another job here again. These were the technical drawings of the wooden boat era. This was actually a trade to make a wooden model, and you only needed half because boats are symmetrical, so you did one half. And the client would come and say they want a certain length boat, so they would build, a model maker would make a model of the vessel to scale with the features if he wanted a schooner bow or a flat stern transom, the beam, the depth, the freeboard. And you can see that they're made in layers. So once the model was made and made in layers, the actual boat builders, the gentlemen, the men and women who built the wooden boats, could take the models apart and get the dimensions off the scale model and replicate that if it was 1 to 100 or whatever the scale was, and scale it up and build a full-size vessel replica of the model that was fabricated.
That would be way more hardy to have in a shop than big rolls of paper getting coffee spilled on them.
That's right. They didn't have computers and AutoCAD and 3D modeling and large format printers, so they had scale models. They're very accurate, and they're priceless. I don't even know if that exists as a trade anymore to build these because they're not really used in the shipbuilding industry, but we've got a large selection, and all of these would have been vessels that had been built here at the shipyard. They weren't
These aren't just
These aren't
made for
displays, no,
decorations.
these were all
These were.
Those hulls were built.
Yeah, and you can see they're worn in places, they've been used and abused, and they may have made one vessel from it. They may have made perhaps a company that wanted multiple scallop vessels. Maybe they wanted half a dozen scallop vessels. The same model would be used for all of them.
So right now we're at about half tide. So when we put a boat on the slip or take it off the slip, we do it at high tide because we need water to be sure we float off. So as the tide now is going down, so later today you'd see more of these whales.
Okay, so we're going out right now.
Yeah, high tide was I think 8 o'clock this morning.
And is this something that happens? Are boats able to just sit on the bottom like that?
Most boats, yes. The strength of the boat is in the keel. So the keel is going to take the weight. To make them sit like that, we have to carefully tie them properly. We have to ballast them so they lean onto the wharf. Not too much, they have to be done right, and we have to take care of them when they're tied at the wharf. But yeah, so they lean over, and we have a certain measure that we watch for, and we put cement barrels and other ballast that we put on them just
To
so
hold
they lean
them there.
properly. Yeah.
This is the kind of boats that they would have been building here
Back in the day, like those hulls you saw on the wall, yeah.
So those hulls we saw on the wall would have been a wooden boat like this.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really, really cool. And you can see where, you know, they ride, right?
Yeah, the deck and against the structure seem to be problematic where the water might stay more.
Yeah.
Yeah, they rot and they have to be maintained. They have to put corking, it's like not a wool, but it looks like wool, and they have to put it in between the planks.
Yeah.
And jam it in there and cement it over.
And cement over it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, the caulking the seams.
Caulking the seams.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Oakum, it's called.
Oakum.
Oakum, yeah.
Oakum. And then this is not like a typical just lumber 2x6, right? Like that's.
It's probably close to it.
Okay.
Yeah. So the boys handle that. They put it on the nut and they'll pound it with the big.
This is a
steel
wrench.
mallet. That's a wrench. And we have a full array of those different sizes.
That's a hell of a wrench.
Yeah, that is a wrench.
Wow.
One of the lines in most of our contracts ends with the boat will be delivered upright in the float. That's
Okay. Now, I know that in the transition from building models to doing this, like, there are stories.
Between the wooden models and the scale, the computer models, we actually had a phase where we lofted full-size lines plans of the vessels in our lofting shop, which was a huge, flat, white painted floor. And we would actually draw the vessel full size and make plywood templates of the molds, of the forms, of the shape, and they would use that as guides for building vessels. So we went from wooden vessels to building full-size drawings on the shop floor and making wooden templates of those, and from there going to boat building. And from that we've transitioned now into electronic computer design, 3D modeling.
So your transition was really seamless in how you guys did it here.
And there's no end to it. You know, we're seeing more with the 3D modeling comes full rendering, so we can actually make the vessel. We did this for HRM. We actually had our 3D model that looked like it was floating in Halifax Harbor, with the capabilities of putting in background images of the harbor, the waterfront, the skyline. It's a powerful tool.
You got a lot of people working on a lot of projects here.
Very much so.
How do you keep track of it all? Who does what?
We make work lists for all the work that we do. So the boats come in, the owners know what work needs to be done to their boat, so they have a list. Or they have it in their heads and we sit with them or we go around the boat with them and we write and we make note of everything. And then we have one guy that all he does is build the work list. It's always his style of writing. We tell him what we want on the work list. He adds it to the work list. So we have, and there's sometimes 10, 12, 15, 20 pages long, and they describe what needs to be done to the boat so that the men and women that work here, through their supervisors, know what they're doing, how they're going to do it, and it keeps track so that when we review the bill before sending it to the client, that what's on the bill matches up with what's on the work list, and then the customer gets the work list with the bill, and he knows exactly what was done to the boat. And in 5 years from now or 10 years from now, when the boat comes back, we can go back and see what was done and when it was done and how.
So what do you guys do in here?
We mix the paint for when we paint vessels, and so basically once the paint's mixed and stuff like that, then we just go out and we paint outside. It could be outside, it could be inside shops and stuff like that.
So you paint outside year-round here?
Year-round if the weather's good. This right here is a hatch cover for the ferry, and so this is a non-skid paint for the vehicles so that they have better grip on them.
Non-skid paint. So are you guys able, like, because I can feel the metal here. This feels mostly smooth.
Yes, anywhere that this rust comes through here, we clean it up, so we sandblast it, and then we prime it, and then we add the paint back to it.
How do you get this kind of texture out of paint? Like, that seems, do you throw dirt on it and then
No,
just paint over the dirt?
depending what they want, for barges and stuff like that, we use just sand. We use paint with sand into it to give it a traction.
How long have you been doing this kind of work?
I've been here for roughly 16 years,
Oh, jeez.
so
Wow.
I've been here a long time.
Have you been painting and sandblasting the whole 16
I've been
years?
painting and sandblasting. I started as a painter, so I've been doing sandblasting, painting, and void work. Sometimes we have to paint in voids and tanks and stuff.
Voids.
Yeah, like voids on a ferry or inside of a boat.
Yeah.
So basically where the covers are, you've got to take the covers off and go inside, because some of them are water tanks. Some tanks can be small, some tanks can be big. So depending how big they are and if you can fit in there.
What do you mean if you can fit in there? Like, you go into places that people can't fit?
I have, where some people can't fit, like the bigger people can't get in, but I've squeezed in.
Like, what are some of the weirder places you've had to squeeze in and paint before?
Going down a hatch cover and then crawling through the floor and then going into another hatch cover down below, and then, so depending where they are on the boats. So they can vary from easy spots to get to hard spots to get out.
You're not claustrophobic then?
No.
So here we are at the big shop. This is where we do most of our big steel boat construction. And right now we're building a ferry for the province of Nova Scotia, where the guys are getting ready to lift a fuel tank aboard to be installed.
Okay, so that it gets built down below.
It was most likely built in our welding
shop?
We have a steel shop and an aluminum shop where they build a lot of the components that are going to go and be installed. So the big shop builds the boat, and a lot of the smaller components get built and brought in.
They get built and brought in piece by piece.
Yeah, and the steel tank was sandblasted and painted by the crew from the paint shop, and then it was brought over.
Fantastic.
What you're looking at here, the end of the vessel is open. You're right. That's the passenger area.
Okay.
Right. And down in front of us is a module that will go on and form the end of the vessel. It sticks out to hold the anchors and the anchor windlass and stuff. So it sticks out over the bow of the boat.
Okay.
So it's built on the shop floor, and then we lift it in position at a later date. So the fuel tanks on these boats, traditionally steel boats, the fuel tanks are part of the hull.
Okay.
Okay? The problem with that is if you puncture the hull, puncture a fuel tank. So ships have gotten away. We talked about double-hulled ships and things like that. So the province has mandated that all their new ships will all have what we call loose fuel tanks. So it's a tank mounted inside the vessel, but not part of the structure.
Okay.
So damage to the vessel doesn't result in damage to the fuel tanks, which can cause environmental. Yes.
So it's 5 years to learn to become a naval architect.
I think you can do it as a 3-year program at the Marine Institute, but where I'm doing the engineering component, it's 5.
So you are a naval architect with an engineering background as well. So that seems highly specialized. What compels somebody to become a naval architect?
I was always into math and science in high school, so I figured engineering was the right field to go into, as it made sense. And I think I had originally wanted to go into electrical engineering.
Okay.
So at mine we do a general first year, so you kind of take courses from a little bit of all the disciplines. Got in there, realized electrical engineering wasn't really my cup of tea.
Yeah?
And then saw the NAVAC program they have, and it looked like fun. So 5 years later, here I am.
What advice would you have for any young women wanting to get into naval architecture and naval engineering? What do you want them to know about this coming in?
Probably don't let the male dominance intimidate you, and to be confident in your abilities.
One final question.
All right.
When I throw a log in the water it floats, so wooden boats make sense to me. When I throw a chunk of steel in the water, it sinks. You guys make steel boats. How do you get steel to float?
So why it floats is because it displaces more water than what it weighs.
Okay.
Archimedes in the bathtub, Eureka. It's in the water, displaces the water.
Yeah, and that's why the boats float.
That's why boats float.
Because they displace more water than the weight. The weight of the water they displace weighs more than the...
The weight of the vessel.
Tell me about where we are.
This is our main fabrication shop for composite vessels. We build our fishing vessels in here at the moment. There has been other projects in here over the years. What you see behind us is a typical Southwest Nova Scotia Cape Island style lobster boat, restricted to 50 feet in length or 15 meters, but it's 35 feet wide. It's the widest boat we've built to date.
And what do you do here, Joy?
Yeah, I oversee the fiberglass construction. It's my responsibility and job to make sure all the layers are put correctly, the techniques are performed correctly, and it's a nice looking boat. I've been here roughly 16 years.
16 years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So if somebody was wanting to get into this business, what would you say to them? Is this a welcoming industry for anyone?
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Yeah?
It doesn't matter age, race, gender. Recently, I've been involved with a school program called Techsploration, encouraging young women to get into the trades and sciences. And if you enjoy working with your hands, creating, this is like an art form. You take a bunch of raw materials and look at what you get.
That's absolutely beautiful. And what am I holding on to here, Joy? What are these things?
These are sample panels that I made for when people just can't quite envision, how hard it is.
Yeah.
These are what we make the bulkheads out of.
Okay.
All the bulkheads in the boat, like structure you see up there, the wheelhouse, that's all foam and fiberglass.
That is as solid as any piece of wood I've ever come into.
Oh, definitely.
And probably even more so, I imagine. And this lasts forever, huh?
It's impervious to water.
Yep.
The traditional method was to use wood, build the structure out of wood, and then fiberglass over top of wood inside and out to seal the wood from the water. However, fiberglass is somewhat porous, and eventually the water gets into the wood. When the wood gets wet, it eventually rots out. This is impervious to water. It'll last forever.
This here is a fiberglass hull.
Correct.
And you have built like a little compartment around it.
A shelter for the guys to work in. Yeah.
So there's...
And we can control the environment.
Okay, so they can get down underneath there, controlled environment with the heat and the right moisture to be able to take care of that.
Yeah, because this boat, we don't have a shop, or we're out in the elements. Today's kind of a nice day, but we have snowstorms and we have wind and rain and frost. So we put heat under there to make the elements proper for the curing for the composite and the fiberglass.
Fantastic.
We even put a bead of we run some caulking here because sometimes we get a lot of rain and the water runs down the boat and it forms not a gutter, but it's a deflection and the water will...
Oh, so it doesn't keep on the hull and go all the way...
It's connected to the back half of the slip so that if we only want to launch half the slip, we can just take the back half. And if we want to launch the whole slip, the back half is going to take the front half with it.
With it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're bolted together.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
so this is going to pull the slipway down, and we reverse it, it's also going to pull it back up.
and there's a big winch in here.
There's a massive winch in here.
Let's go see it.
Let's go take a look.
All right.
So this is what
wow, look at this.
This is here. This is our winch house. So this is what pulls the slip up and pulls it back down, pulls the weight of the boats. 1,500 tons is a lot of weight to pull up, and you got friction from the wheels.
That's a hell of a sprocket. Is that black from paint?
No, that's oil. So that sprocket is kept in an oil bath. So as it turns, it's going to oil itself because it goes from gear to gear to gear, and everything needs to be oiled up because it's pulling hard.
And then the chain is actually resting on what looks like a square sprocket.
Yeah, that's a square. It's called a wildcat. So
Wildcat?
It's a type of sprocket that's designed to handle a chain, which is not the same type of chain as your bicycle, right?
No, it's a much bigger chain. And is this the motor in behind us here?
That's the motor, followed by gears to gear up and gear down.
And is it an electrical motor?
It's electric, yeah.
Is this attached to like the bedrock?
Has to dig a big hole, bigger, and much deeper than what you would for a house.
Yeah.
And there might be 10 or more big truckloads of concrete in the bottom of this building
Just
to anchor down the winch, so that when we pull a boat up, the boat comes up and this winch house doesn't go down.
so this winch house is kind of like an iceberg.
Bigger, well, heavier, let's say.
Well, insofar as like we get to see here, and there's a whole lot more down below.
Holding it down. Yeah.
How long does it take to pull a boat at high tide?
Probably 30 minutes from the time we say, okay.
This is better up here. You can really see here where the foam has been cut open, like so the stuff that we were
this is where
blasting.
the windows are gonna go. These
Yeah.
two are cut out yet.
And that was but that's the kind of paneling that we were working on down there.
Yep.
Very, very cool. Wow.
Yes.
So how much longer will it take to finish this off?
The electronics, the hydraulics, all the electrical stuff, that does take quite a while as well. Like this is going to be all nice finished interior with nice paneling
When will you be launching this boat?
in the summer.
Right now, they're lifting what will be the deck head on top of the accommodations to form the complete second tier with super. When you're lifting something, that piece probably weighs in the order of 8 to 9, probably 8 tons. So they start off lifting slow to make sure all the lifting gears have probably done a test lift to make sure that everything was in order. And now move it into place.
We are fortunate to have almost every aspect of every trade that we need and require to build a boat. So we like to call it a turnkey operation, that you can come and sit with us and you have a contract, and we can take that vision and we can make that vision come true in reality in building a boat. As a young person, to become a tradesman is very important. That's where we work quite closely with the NSCCs in the Yarmouth and throughout the province of Nova Scotia. We're hiring journeymen, apprentices all the time, just to grow our company. We work quite closely with associations like Nova Scotia Boat Builder Association that we work quite closely to get certification, because it's amazing how many younger people that don't have trades and they can come and work with us, and we can create and give them a trade at the end of the day, being either a certified boat builder or a marine
Service technician.
marine service technician. So there's multiple avenues that even joining our team here that you can grow and become certified.